Welcome back to the Pro Sports Podcasters on YouTube. My name is Kobe. Most of you know me as Kobe, and today let's talk about what's going on with NFL all day. My last video got a lot of response, and I appreciate that. I love the comments. I love that a conversation got started. There are some positive and some negative ones, of course, because in any video that I say anything negative, I always get a little bit of hate back. And it's expected. That goes along with the job, so whatever. I appreciate all of your comments. Now, what I want to look at today, and this is to address some of the negative comments and even some of the positive ones that I got in relation to that video, is what do we want from NFL all day? What do we really want from it? Right? There are a number of reasons to collect NFL all day, and there are a number of opportunities to be had with NFL all day, and they kind of go hand in hand. So I want to kind of run down just a few of them. And the first one, of course, is investment, right? A lot of people are seeing this as a digital investment. People saw what happened with Bitcoin. NFTs are the next big thing. So it's like, let's get in and let's get on something that we have some knowledge of or familiarity with, and that's sports NFTs, and in this case, NFL football. So you've got the investment side, and one of the comments made a very good point, and that's in challenges like these, you had the opportunity where if you did have some of those rares in your collection, instead of completing the challenge, you could have sold those rares at a premium to hopefully buy them back later at a significant discount and take a bit of a profit. And that is practically a guaranteed option. I'm telling you the truth right now. The majority of the moments involved in this particular challenge, I mean, everyone from a David Long Jr. that no one gives a shit about, Ali Marpet, same sort of thing, have gone up in value significantly. So if you had those in your collection and decide to sell them, you would have taken a bit of a profit. Bonus, and I guarantee you're going to be able to buy them back later for cheaper. So that is one option that's available to you whenever a challenge like this comes out. So that's something I want to look at as the investment side of it. Now, the negative to that, though, is if Dapper Labs intends on utilizing primarily rare and legendary moments and challenges, which I don't think will be the case, but as of right now, it is. If that happens, then all of those commons you've invested in, especially all of those debut moment commons, are going to feel like they're worthless to you. And when you crack a pack, any pack, on the NFL All Day platform, the majority of your moments are going to be common. It's just the way it works. It's like anything else that has to do with minted moments as NFTs or even hard stock playing cards. You're always going to have majority commons. Now, history shows that although there are always, values attached to some of these rare and legendary type mint or print runs, specific commons generally carry some of the most value because they're usually the debut or the rookie moment or the rookie card that gets released. So one of the things I saw happen previous to the challenge being announced is the Brady debut moment, which is a common minted to 10,000, was actually climbing during the day. It was going up because people had a feeling that maybe it was going to be involved. There was some talk and chatter on a number of the chat rooms, the Discord and such, about maybe Brady's going to be involved. So people started buying it, and it had reached a pretty significant low previous to that. It was down to like 245 or something like that. And as the course of the day went by, it went up in value. The challenge gets announced. It's not included, of course, because it's not a rare. So it went back down in value again, and there's a number of people who kind of lost on it there. But to me, there's no harm in owning a Brady. If you bought one in anticipation and it didn't work out for you, but you still have it in your collection, whatever. It's still Tom Brady's debut moment. So no harm, no foul there. But when you go ahead and start purchasing moments that you're not interested in order to complete the challenge, you're hoping that what you get from the challenge is worthwhile. And in this case, there's a problem with how they sort of pass the information on when it comes to challenges. This is one of my issues right now with NFL All Day. This is not an issue with NBA Top Shot. They've kind of figured it out on that platform and had things organized. But the first problem that I see mentioned quite often is the snapshot. The snapshot system is like a lazy way of doing it. It's to say, well, if it's in your collection, we'll know because we take a snapshot, and provided some of the moments in your collection meet the parameters, you're good to go. people have been talking about how they'd much rather see a challenge room where you actually enter the moments in order to know that it's complete as opposed to getting the snapshot done. And I agree with that, although this platform is still in development. So at some point, it wouldn't surprise me if they implement something like that. But if they don't, it's just a lazy way out, which I hope isn't going to be the case here. It's the same thing we see on UFC Strike, that whole lazy approach to just taking a snapshot to see whether or not you've completed a challenge. I hope that's not the case. But for investors, challenges like this are really a bonus when it comes right down to it. It's a bonus. So this does not hurt investors. The next group are just hardcore collectors. And these are people who want to collect specific teams. They want to collect specific players or, collect specific subsets even. Those people can somewhat benefit in a situation like this, depending on which teams they selected. But if these teams aren't included in your collection, you burn here, really. Because what Dapper is trying to get you to do is spend more money on moments that you have zero interest in, and so there's a possibility of getting a moment back that you may want. That doesn't really work out for you. And collectors are just as interested in common moments as they are in rares or legendaries. For a collector, the most important thing is just having everything you need. If it's a team, you want everyone on that team. I'm a huge fan of the Denver Broncos. I have all the Denver Broncos moments. To be honest with you, I waited until this challenge to actually buy the last Denver Bronco moment I required, which is the Quinn Miners. And Quinn Miners being an offensive lineman doesn't really factor in much into my, performance challenge strategy that I've talked about many times on this channel. But I am a Broncos fan. I wanted all the Broncos. It was the last one I required, and I actually used this challenge as a means to get him relatively cheap because people were selling off moments they weren't that interested in order to buy moments they weren't interested in to complete this challenge. So his value went down enough for me to be like, now it's time to pull the trigger. I went ahead and pulled the trigger, completed my set. So that was the bonus to me, right? So for some people, this could fit that strategy. For others, it doesn't even take it into account whatsoever. But that's okay too, because you don't need to complete every single challenge. You don't. Something I need to stress here. If you're going to complete every single challenge, that just means you've got money to burn. You're going to have fun on the platform. This is where you spend your money, and so be it. You just want to complete challenges and see what happens. Nothing wrong with that, but not everyone's in that category. And I'm trying to speak to the masses here. I'm not trying to speak to the 2%, the 1%, right? In this case, I've been informed by one of the last comments I had on the last video that there's like 2,017 people or something that have completed this challenge on a platform that's got 81,000 plus, right? Now, I was hoping for, maybe 10% finish a challenge. That would be nice. 10%, that's pretty significant. That shows some real interest. 5% at the lowest, but here we are. We didn't even reach 5%. So, how many people are really interested in this challenge? Very few. Very few. And that hurts the platform because you want people to be interested. You want people to be engaged. So I'm going to look at the next group. And the next group are collectors like myself. These are pretty hardcore collectors who have a strategy. Mine is performance challenges and all-day fantasy football. It's what I'm hoping for. Now, I'm hoping for them because there's no chance for that to even occur until the season begins. So during the off season, I'm just building up my collection in anticipation of that. If I have an opportunity to complete the odd challenge here and there, I will. But I'm not going to go out of my way to complete challenges if they don't fit my strategy. And I took some flack over not completing this particular challenge when it comes right down to it. I took some flack over it. People were like, "Hey, you could have completed that." I'm like, sure I could have. Why not? Why not? I could have completed it. But I look at it like every dollar I spend trying to achieve something that goes against my particular strategy is $1 less I have to spend on that strategy. So I'm kind of really trying to focus where all of my investment dollars go to get the biggest return on the challenges and collections that I think will give me the best return. And that brings in the next sort of group, and that's people who are very selective about what they want to collect. I know people who collect hockey cards, and the only hockey cards they own are Wayne Gretzky's. I have a friend who's a huge Michael Jordan fan, and he's got binders of Michael Jordan cards because they're just huge fans of that one player. So that single player collection, it's never going to factor into something like this. It could factor into, say, a performance challenge. It could factor into that. It could factor into a collections challenge, right? If somebody decides Tom Brady's the GOAT to them and they want to get every Tom Brady possible, fine and dandy. They could have just a slew of Tom Brady's. But at some point, when a challenge comes up that requires you to have one of those Tom Brady's, they may look at the, 100 Tom Brady's they've collected and be like, I could sell 10 right now and make a significant profit. And they'll take their investment dollars back from that. But a challenge like this one, it's never going to affect them. And then you have even less limited, but limited. So somebody who collects a particular team. Again, you've got the sell opportunity, but not the return opportunity on a challenge. Now, eventually, I would hope that Dapper Labs does actually reward us for having team sets. It's something they've talked about months back. So that could be a bonus for someone like that, right? Maybe you get bonused depending on whether or not you have a full team set of a team that makes the playoffs or advances in the playoffs. So that's something you could look forward to when the season actually begins, right? So you've got different kind of collectors. They're after different things. There will be different opportunities that feature their collections. But the one thing that holds true to me is the most important thing right now is to build the community. You want all of these different groups to feel engaged on the platform. You don't want someone who comes in and says, you know what, I'm a big fan of quarterbacks. I'm going to collect as many quarterbacks as I can. And then nothing really happens in regards to quarterbacks. Or they do something with quarterbacks, but they tell you it's got to be rares only. And you've made a concerted effort to have every quarterback in the league, but only a few of them are rares because your goal is to have the quarterbacks, not have the highest value quarterbacks. Just the collection. So you got to look at that. And if Dapper Labs can do something to satisfy the majority versus the minority, that's a bonus. It's not easy to do. It's not, right? I'm not trying to hammer them here. I just think the first major challenge they let out excludes so many that was a bit of a mistake. Right? That one didn't work out. What are you after? What do you want from this platform? Everybody knows what I want. Performance-based challenges. All-day fantasy football. Right? I want to be able to take my football knowledge, apply it to NFL all day, and get rewarded for it. Random challenges never excited me. Actually, that was one of the biggest problems with NBA Top Shot for me. I got an NBA Top Shot late. I honestly got into it just to get a feel for Dapper Labs platforms and how they do things. And the first few challenges I saw, there was a couple that intrigued me because the very first one I saw was based on rebounds. It was based on rebounds, the top rebounders in a 2-day period, leading into a weekend. I thought, that's cool. That's awesome. Right? If you know the game, you know who collects the majority of the rebounds, which teams have a tendency to shoot from the outside the most, that are going to give up a lot of rebounds. There's a lot of things that could factor in there for you to kind of design your collection around and recoup the benefits when a challenge like that comes out. But then shortly after that, the majority of the challenges were quite literally just collection-based challenges. They were, if you have this particular you need to have one of these legendaries from this set, one of these rares from this set. You need to have a rookie from this set. You put it all together, and here's your challenge group. Like that sort of thing, zero interest in me. Zero. I really hope they don't go that way with NFL all day. I really do. Because then what's the importance of the player? If that's the case, then they might as well be Pokemon when it comes right down to it. Just give them names and say this is what's required. right? You've got to actually speak to the fan of the actual sport. Because if you don't, you're going to lose them. And the largest potential market is the fan. So speak to them. Do something that makes them happy. Don't release another challenge that excludes 97% of the community. And the last thing I really want to talk about when it comes to something they've been offering as a requirement to reach a challenge is this net spend. I really hate the inclusion of the net there. It's not how much have you spent on the platform. It's how much have you spent on the platform, but not made off the platform. And keep in mind, they make off of every single transaction. Every single transaction makes Dapper Labs money. So whether you sell something on the platform or buy something on the platform, they make money. Right? They benefit. So adding that net is just jerkish, in my opinion, because what it really says, what it says to me is, let's say you buy a standard or premium pack in the next release, and you are lucky enough to hit a legendary. And you're like, wow, nailed a legendary. Let's see what it is. And it ends up being one of these legendaries of a player or team that you have zero interest in. Zero. So what do? I think the majority of you, myself included, is you hop on the marketplace, you see what it's selling for, what has it sold for recently, you maybe mark it down 5% and sell it so that you can recoup some sort of value from that lottery ticket you just hit, as opposed to having a lottery ticket, winning, and never cashing it in. Because holding on to a legendary you don't want, or of a player you don't give a damn about, is pretty much, that's what it is. So you sell it on the marketplace. Let's say you sell it for $1,000. You're like, boom, I now got $1,000 worth of Dapper. What do I want to do with it? Now, you could just request to get it back, pull it, and put it in your physical wallet, right? You could do that. But the majority, probably myself included, I don't do that. I see it as an opportunity to buy more of the moments I actually want off the marketplace. So you take that $1,000 and you spend it on everything that you've had highlighted over the last month or so that you're interested in, but we're kind of like iffy about pulling the trigger on because you thought maybe it'll go down in a month or two. Who knows what's going to happen in the marketplace in the next little while. I'll wait it out. Whatever justifications you gave yourself to not buy it at that moment are now gone, and you go ahead and you take your $1,000 and you spend it on the marketplace. And not only do you benefit by getting the moments you want, but every single person that's selling those moments benefit because they now have a buyer. And then Dapper benefits because they make money on every single transaction. And then a month later, you find out, hey, Dapper is going to do this bonus based on your net spend. But because you were lucky enough to hit a legendary, your net spend is minimal. It's minimal. Because you've been spending money off of that sale. And they don't count that. That's bullshit. They should seriously just drop the net and reward everyone, no matter how they come upon their Dapper credit, for being active on the platform, for contributing to the marketplace, for buying and selling, and keeping things going, keeping the interest up. So enough of the net, because again, that just speaks to one type of consumer on this marketplace, and that's whales. Because whales are going to spend the most, so they're going to benefit the most when you factor in the net in these particular challenges. Rant done. That's all I wanted to say. Let me know what your opinions are, what you're in it for, what you're hoping to see from NFL All Day. And for those of you that feel like I really missed out on this one, don't feel that way, because literally, like I said, like just over 2,000 people qualified. The majority of these moments, from what I understand, are being minted to, around 1,000 of these rare moments. There's at least 1,000 minted of each. There's like 6 of them, right? So that's 6,000 that are being minted, roughly, that are available. And they've already said whichever ones aren't given away in this challenge will be given away in subsequent challenges coming up. So at some point, there will be challenges that I'm sure you're going to feel comfortable with, that fit your strategy, that include moments maybe that you've been looking at anyways, so you might as well buy them now and get the benefit. You're going to have opportunities. You're not missing out. Till next time.